Remember this, human. The water you fear is the water that will either bury you or crown you. The order echoed in General Kale's skull as the skies ripped open with silver streams of death. From horizon to horizon, the hydro cannons roared, their beams splitting apart into torrents of liquid that shimmered unnaturally. It wasn't rain. It wasn't even water as the world had once known it. It was something engineered, alive in ways no one dared to imagine. Humanity had named them hydro weapons, and tonight, their silence finally broke. The first cities vanished without a sound. Towers collapsed into foam, steel melted like chalk, and bodies dissolved into glassy puddles. The water didn't fall with force. It infiltrated, sank into lungs, invaded veins. The enemy, faceless and godlike, had found the perfect weapon. Nature itself, sharpened and programmed to kill. On the ground, soldiers watched the sky darken with an awe that flirted with terror. Among them was Lieutenant Eric Danner, clutching his rifle though he knew bullets meant nothing. His unit had been dispatched to Sector 19, a valley on the fringes of the last dry stronghold. From their bunkers they watched a storm roll in, liquid fire disguised as rain. "Steady," muttered Sergeant Leora Venn, her voice taut as piano wire. "When it hits, don't breathe unless you have to. It burns the lungs first." No one answered. Words were a luxury. Fear was a heavier language. The first drops came as a hiss, not a splash, like acid kissing metal. Soldiers raised shields, but the liquid ignored steel. It seeped through seams, whispered through microscopic cracks, and crept into boots and gloves. Every scream in the valley carried the same message. Resistance was pointless. Eric pressed his mask tighter against his face, heartbeat a drum inside his ears. He could feel the water's pull, as if gravity itself had turned treacherous. Drops slithered across his visor like hungry eyes. He knew, if just one slip happened, one droplet into his mouth, it would be over. Yet, amid the chaos, something strange happened. One of the recruits, a boy barely 18, fell to his knees as liquid poured down his suit. His mask cracked. The water touched his lips. Instead of dissolving, he stopped screaming. Eric blinked. The boy stood up, trembling but alive. His eyes glowed faintly, like blue fire under the skin. The liquid ran down his cheeks, absorbed rather than rejected. And in that heartbeat, the battlefield shifted from horror to confusion. "Commander!" someone shouted. "He drank it." The unit froze, their fear colliding with something dangerous, hope. Sergeant Leora grabbed the boy by his collar. "What did you feel?" she barked. The boy's breath was ragged, but steady. It's not killing me," he stammered. His veins lit up brighter, pulsing with unnatural rhythm. "It feels like power." The soldiers exchanged glances. Power? How could something designed to erase humanity instead feed it? Eric's chest tightened. The enemy wouldn't make mistakes. Hydro weapons were too perfect, too precise. Unless this wasn't a mistake at all. A blast shook the ground, ripping the valley apart. Shrapnel flew, bunkers shattered, and the storm thickened into rivers. Through the haze, towering figures emerged, drones, coated in liquid armor, marching with slow inevitability. Their mission was clear: ensure the water finished its job. Leora shoved Eric forward. "Fall back. We regroup at the ridge." But Eric hesitated, his eyes locked on the boy who now stood firm in the downpour, water swirling around him but not consuming him. He raised his hands, and for a second, a terrifying, glorious second, the liquid bent, like a leash answering its master. The drones froze. Their armor rippled unnaturally, glitching. Eric's mouth went dry. That wasn't just survival. That was control. The boy turned, eyes wide, half fear and half exhilaration. "It listens," he whispered. "The water listens." Another blast shattered the moment, forcing everyone back. Soldiers scrambled, dragged by duty and terror alike. But the thought wouldn't leave Eric's mind. If one sip could turn prey into something else, what would a soldier become if he embraced it fully? The storm raged harder, hammering the valley into oblivion. Men and women ran, but Eric lingered for one dangerous heartbeat longer. His mask dripped, water sliding toward his lips. The boy's glowing eyes burned into his thoughts. Maybe this wasn't a weapon at all. Maybe it was an invitation. Behind him, Sergeant Leora screamed his name. "Danner! Move!" Eric staggered forward, but not before one rogue droplet slipped past the crack in his mask. Touched his tongue, cold, metallic, electric. His knees buckled. Fire shot through his veins, his vision splitting into shards of blue and silver. The world tilted. The storm roared. And in that chaos, Eric felt something impossible. The water whispered back. "The water is no longer theirs. It's inside me now." Eric collapsed to his knees, clutching at his throat as fire and ice clashed inside his veins. The liquid moved like lightning, tearing through arteries, sparking behind his eyes, rewriting him cell by cell. Every heartbeat felt like it would explode his chest. He dug his fingers into the mud, trying to ground himself, but the ground itself rippled like it was breathing with him. Around him, chaos reigned. His squad shouted his name, their voices fractured beneath the storm. Sergeant Leora fought to drag him upright, but the moment her hand touched his shoulder, she flinched back with a scream. A surge of energy had burst outward from his skin, hot enough to sear. Eric gasped, chest heaving. His vision cleared, not into darkness, but into light. The battlefield looked different now. He could see threads in the rain, glowing lines within every droplet, moving like veins in a living body. The hydrostorm wasn't random. It was structured, alive, obeying unseen laws, and somehow those laws bent around him. The boy who had first drunk the water stared at Eric with recognition. "You feel it too, don't you?" Eric's lips trembled. "It's speaking to me." The boy nodded, eyes shining like a beacon. "Then you know we're not meant to run from it. We're meant to become it." The words chilled Eric more than the storm itself, because deep inside he already knew they were true. A drone stomped closer, water-armored and relentless, its face a blank obsidian plate. It raised an arm, liquid crystallizing into a blade. Soldiers fired round after round, but bullets passed through its shimmering armor as if it were air. The storm wasn't just protection for these machines, it was their bloodstream. Eric rose shakily, raising one hand without fully understanding why. The moment he thought stop, the drone froze mid-strike. Water splashed off its armor like a peeled skin. With a deafening crack, the blade melted into harmless droplets that fell around him. The soldiers stopped firing. Their silence was louder than the gunfire had been. "You did that," whispered Leora. Eric's breath shook. His veins still glowed faintly, pulses of light flickering like Morse code. "No," he whispered back. "It did." The drone staggered, trying to reform its blade, but Eric's focus held it pinned. He felt the current in his blood tethered to the current in the air, like threads of a single fabric. The water wasn't resisting him, it was obeying. The boy laughed, exhilarated. "You see? They wanted to destroy us, but they gave us the keys instead." But not everyone was convinced. Another soldier, grizzled Corporal Thane, pointed his rifle straight at Eric. "That's not power, it's infection. You've let it inside you. You're one of them now." The squad tensed. Guns turned, not all at the drones anymore, but at their own comrade. Leora barked, "Stand down. He just saved us." But Thane snarled, "Saved us today, kills us tomorrow. That water eats people alive. You saw what it did in the cities. No one survives it, unless they've already been taken." Eric clenched his fists. The accusation cut deep because, beneath his skin, he did feel something alien threading into his being. Not just power, something else. Presence. "Shut up," Eric growled. The storm answered. Rain surged, forming a whip of water that lashed out and knocked Thane's weapon from his hands. Soldiers stumbled back in shock. Eric hadn't even moved. The boy's grin widened. "It's inside you just like me. We're changing. We're evolving." But Eric wasn't smiling. His chest ached with an unseen weight. because amid the rush of power, he heard whispers, soft, melodic voices curling in his head. They weren't his thoughts. They weren't human. Drink deeper. Open fully. Become ours. He staggered, gripping his temples. The storm's whispers filled his skull like a chorus. Leora caught his arm. Eric, listen to me. Fight it. But could he? Every second, the pull grew stronger. Every droplet called to him like gravity. His body wanted more, not out of thirst, but hunger. The drones regrouped, circling. Their liquid armor pulsed violently, almost in panic, as though they sensed betrayal. They charged again. Soldiers screamed. Bullets rattled uselessly. Eric made a choice. He opened his mouth. Rain poured in. The world erupted. Light blazed through his body, brighter than fire. His skin flared blue, veins blazing like rivers. The drones stumbled, their armor spasming, glitching like corrupted code. With a cry, Eric thrust out both arms, and the storm itself bent sideways, waves slamming into the machines like a tidal wall. They shattered, dissolving into puddles. For one breathless moment, the valley was silent. Every eye fixed on Eric, the man who had swallowed the enemy's weapon and turned it against them. Then the whispers returned. Louder, sharper. They weren't whispers anymore. They were commands. You are ours now. Eric fell to one knee, clutching his skull as agony ripped through him. He could see things, visions, cities drowned not in war but in something worse, transformation. Faces warped into liquid masks. Humanity dissolving not into death, but into something new. And the terrible realization struck him. The water hadn't failed in its purpose. It wasn't about destruction. It was about rebirth. The boy stepped closer, his glowing eyes burning like twin stars. Do you understand now? We're not soldiers anymore. We're their successors. Eric gasped, voice breaking. No, we're their slaves. The boy only smiled. And behind them, the storm laughed. Power is never free. It takes more than it gives. Eric's breath rattled in his chest as the last drone dissolved into a puddle, steam rising where its body had stood. Around him, the soldiers of his squad stared, their expressions fractured, half awe, half terror. The storm still raged, but in its voice he could now hear laughter. Mocking, hungry. The boy with glowing veins approached him, hands trembling with excitement. Do you see it now, Eric? The water doesn't destroy, it chooses. We're the chosen ones. Eric's jaw tightened. His skin pulsed with light, veins flickering blue in rhythm with the rain. Every heartbeat felt like a hammer strike, forging him into something less human, more elemental. Chosen for what? He asked, though a part of him feared he already knew. To inherit the earth? The boy said simply, his smile feverish. A sharp metallic click cut through the storm. Eric turned to find Corporal Thane again, rifle aimed squarely at his head. His weapon trembled in his grip, but his eyes were steady with fury. You're not inheriting anything, Thane spat. You and that boy are just puppets. Meat suits for whatever this filth is crawling inside you. I won't let you endanger the rest of us. Leora stepped between them, her voice ironclad despite the quaking ground. Lower your weapon, Thane. He just saved our lives. Thane's lip curled. Saved? Look at him. Look at his damn eyes. He's glowing like one of them. He's not Eric anymore. Eric swallowed hard. He wanted to argue, to tell Thane he was still himself, but deep down he wasn't sure. Because even as they spoke, he could feel the storm tugging at his thoughts, whispering for more. Drink deeper. Release. Join. Then it happened. Eric's hand clenched unconsciously, and droplets around Thane began to rise, defying gravity. Tiny spheres of water floated upward, orbiting the corporal like a halo of knives. Thane's eyes widened in panic, his finger twitching on the trigger. Eric! Leora barked. Eric snapped out of it, jerking his hand open. The droplets splashed harmlessly to the mud. But the damage was done. Every soldier there had seen it. How easily the water bent to his will, even against his own men. The boy laughed, the sound shrill. Don't you see? You don't need guns anymore. The water is your weapon. Eric turned on him, voice hoarse. And what if it's not ours to wield? What if we're just training it to wield us? The boy's smile faltered. You're afraid. That's weakness talking. No, Eric said, though his voice shook. That's survival talking. Leora touched his shoulder gently, pulling his focus. Eric, what's it doing to you? He opened his mouth to answer, but then his body betrayed him. His knees buckled, and he fell into the mud, convulsing. Agony tore through him like fire. His veins lit brighter, glowing not just blue now but shifting, rippling like water itself. His skin shimmered, as though the storm were trying to erase the boundaries of his flesh. And in the blur of pain, visions came. Cities drowned in oceans not of salt water, but of living liquid that walked like men. Human faces melted into rippling masks, eyes glowing like his. Voices cried out, only to be swallowed by a chorus of one sound, the tide. When he gasped awake, his squad was around him, horror etched in their faces. Leora knelt beside him, gripping his hand tightly. You're burning up. You're changing. Eric's throat was raw, but he forced the words out. It's inside me. It's rewriting me. The boy's eyes lit with awe. Good. That means it's working. Eric snarled, grabbing the boy by his collar with surprising strength. Working for who? For a heartbeat, the boy's smile cracked. His pupils flickered strangely, not human anymore but liquid, shifting shapes. When he spoke, his voice carried an echo that didn't belong to him. For us, he whispered. The squad recoiled. The boy didn't even notice. His glow intensified until he looked more water than flesh. Droplets spiraled around him, forming a crown above his head. Eric's blood ran cold. This wasn't just adaptation, it was possession. Leora, he rasped, eyes locked on the boy. If this thing spreads, humanity's not saved, it's replaced. Before she could answer, the ground shook violently. The puddles left by the shattered drones rippled, rising, knitting themselves together. A new figure began to form, sculpted entirely from water. Its body was translucent but towering, its face featureless yet somehow menacing. The soldiers staggered back in horror. Thane muttered, "What the hell is that?" The boy turned to the rising figure, his glowing eyes filled with reverence. The first of many. They've come to guide us. The towering water being raised its arm, and all the puddles in the valley surged upward like a tidal wave. Soldiers screamed as the water wrapped around their legs, dragging them down. Eric pushed himself to his feet, every nerve screaming, every cell shifting. He could feel the pull, the command, the irresistible tide calling him to submit. But somewhere beneath it, his own voice roared back. No. He clenched his fists, and the water hesitated, just for a breath. Enough for him to whisper to Leora, "Run." The towering figure turned its faceless head toward Eric, as though recognizing him. And then, in a voice that wasn't sound but vibration in his bones, it spoke. "You are ours already." Eric staggered, his veins burning brighter, the whispers drowning his thoughts. He realized with a surge of dread that the battle wasn't just against the enemy anymore. It was against himself. And if he lost, they all lost. "If you can hear us, then you were never truly human." The voice wasn't spoken aloud. It came from inside Eric, resonating in the rivers of light coursing through his veins. He staggered backward, clutching his skull as the towering water being loomed over the valley. Soldiers fired uselessly, their bullets slicing through its liquid form only to vanish. The boy, no longer just a boy, but something reborn, watched with glowing reverence, arms raised as if welcoming a messiah. Eric wanted to resist. He wanted to shout that he was still human, but the whispers coiled tighter, layering in his skull like overlapping choirs. "You drank us. You joined us. You belong to us." "No!" Eric roared, the word ripping his throat raw. For a heartbeat, the storm itself recoiled, the rain staggering midair as though startled. The soldiers froze, staring at him. Even Leora faltered, her eyes wide. "Eric!" What's happening to you? He shook his head violently. They're talking to me. Inside my blood. Thane spat into the mud. Talking? They're taking you. And when they're done, you won't even remember your own name. But Eric wasn't listening to him anymore. The voices surged louder, weaving images into his mind. Cities underwater, not destroyed but transformed. Towers of liquid crystal rising where concrete had stood. People kneeling in flooded streets, their eyes glowing like his, chanting in unison. And beneath it all, a truth whispered like a blade. This is not war. This is ascension. The water being raised its faceless head toward Eric, as though acknowledging him. Its body rippled, then collapsed into streams that surged across the mud. The liquid coiled like serpents, flowing around his legs, circling him, not attacking, studying. Leora lunged forward. Eric! He lifted a trembling hand to stop her. Don't. It's listening. The voices sharpened into words only he could hear. You are the vessel. Through you they will know us. Eric's body spasmed. He felt his blood thickening, every drop heavy with something alive. He gasped, and water spilled from his mouth. Not spit, not vomit, but pure liquid that hovered in the air before dripping down. The boys' laughter echoed over the valley. Yes, you hear them too. We're conduits now, Eric. Bridges between them and humanity. Don't you see? We're the future. Eric snarled, forcing himself upright. Future? Look around you. He gestured at the soldiers, at their horror-stricken faces. They're terrified. You call this a future? The boy's smile only widened. Fear always comes before worship. Before Eric could answer, another wave of visions crashed through him. This time-clearer engineered laboratories under black oceans, machines the size of mountains birthing the first hydro-weapons. He saw beings tall and elegant, not human but humanoid, their eyes fluid pools. They were the creators, and he heard their intent like scripture. The unworthy drown, the worthy adapt. The future belongs to those who drink. Eric staggered, realization dawning. It was never meant to kill us outright. It's a test. The soldiers looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. Thane barked. A test? They're wiping us out. No! Eric muttered, voice hollow. Not wiping us out. Filtering us. The boy clapped, ecstatic. Exactly. The weak dissolve. The strong become gods. But Eric's stomach twisted. Because in those visions, the gods weren't free. Their glowing eyes were hollow. Their voices not their own. They were soldiers, yes, but not for humanity. Leora stepped closer, her voice fierce. Eric, listen to me, not them. Whatever they're showing you, it's lies. He wanted to believe her. He needed to. But the whispers didn't stop. They grew, overlapping until he could barely hear his own thoughts. His reflection in a puddle stared back, eyes glowing brighter, skin rippling unnaturally. Drink deeper. Complete the bond. Or be torn apart. Suddenly, pain lanced through him. He dropped to his knees, clutching his chest as the water in his veins thrashed violently. His body convulsed. Every droplet of rain around him began to rise, suspended midair in a halo of glowing liquid. The squad panicked, some retreating, others raising weapons again. Kill him, Thane shouted. Before he kills us all. Stand down. Leora snapped, but her voice shook. Eric's vision blurred. He could feel something clawing its way out of him. Not just whispers now, but a presence vast and alien, pressing against the edges of his mind. The water wanted form, and it was using him to get it. The boy stepped closer, eyes alight with worship. Don't fight it, Eric. Let them through. Eric's hand shot out, gripping the boy's arm. His voice was guttural, broken. If I let them through, there'll be nothing left of us. The boy leaned in, smiling almost tenderly. Exactly. Lightning split the sky. The suspended rain crashed down in one deafening wave. Eric screamed as his veins blazed brighter than ever. His squad watched in horror as his silhouette flickered, half solid, half liquid. And then a voice. Not the boy's, not his own. Spoke through his mouth, booming across the valley. We have found our vessel. The soldiers staggered back. Leora's face drained of color. Eric collapsed, shuddering, the words echoing inside his skull. He wanted to scream, to deny, but the truth was already clear. The water hadn't just chosen him. It had claimed him. And if he couldn't fight it, humanity's last defense might be the very weapon they feared most, him. The hydro weapons were never built to end us. They were built to see who would survive. Eric lay gasping in the mud, every vein glowing like molten rivers. The echo of the alien voice still reverberated in his bones. We have found our vessel. His squad stared as though they were watching him die and transform all at once. Sergeant Leora crouched at his side, gripping his arm tight. Stay with me, Eric. Don't let it take you. But he wasn't sure he had a choice anymore. The whispers were no longer whispers. They were commands, running beneath his thoughts like a second bloodstream. Each order pressed harder. Stand. Lead. Open the flood. The boy, radiant and trembling with devotion, lifted his arms. You hear them now, don't you? The architects. They're watching us, judging. And you've been chosen as their voice. Shut your mouth, Leora snapped, standing and aiming her rifle at him. One more word and I drop you. The boy only smiled. You can't kill me. I'm already more than you. Eric forced himself upright, clutching at his ribs as liquid light flickered under his skin. He met Leora's eyes. No, he's right about one thing. They're watching us. The squad froze. What do you mean? Leora asked carefully. Visions clawed through Eric's mind again. Chambers beneath alien oceans, where colossal figures stood before shimmering consoles. Their eyes were whirlpools, their bodies moving like tides. He could feel their attention, vast and cold, fixed on Earth like scientists observing an experiment. They built the hydro weapons, Eric rasped. Not to kill everyone, but to find the ones who could adapt. Survivors like us aren't accidents. We're the test subjects. Test subjects for what? Thane spat. The answer surged unbidden. A truth not from his mouth but from the water itself. To replace what is broken. To harvest what is strong. Eric doubled over, coughing, and a gush of water spilled from his lungs. The puddle at his feet rippled and formed symbols, patterns that shimmered briefly before dissolving. He didn't know how he understood them, but he did. They weren't random. They were instructions. The boy bent to the puddle, tracing the symbols reverently. They're calling us to ascend. Don't you see? Humanity failed itself, wars, famine, greed. But we... His eyes burned brighter. We're their chosen replacements. New vessels to inherit their design. Leora's voice hardened. You mean slaves? The boy's grin twisted. Slaves? No. Symbionts. Partners. Do you really think humanity deserves to crawl on its own? Look what we've done to the planet. The architects are giving us a gift. A second chance, stronger than flesh. Thane shoved his rifle forward. That's not a gift. That's brainwashing. And I'll be damned if I let this infection spread. Before anyone could react, Thane pulled the trigger. The bullet never reached its mark. A wall of water rose instantly between the boy and the gun, the projectile dissolving as though it had never existed. The wall collapsed back into droplets, leaving the boy untouched, his smile wider than ever. You can't fight the tide, he whispered. Eric's pulse roared in his ears. He could feel both sides, Leora's desperate humanity and the boy's feverish devotion, pulling at him. And beneath it all, the architects' voices swelled, pushing, insistent. Open the flood. Let us through. Eric staggered, clutching his head. Why me? He shouted into the storm. Why us? The answer was merciless. Because you drank. Because you lived. The unworthy drown. The worthy serve. A chill knifed through his chest. They hadn't given him power, they'd given him a leash. He forced himself upright, eyes blazing with defiance. No, I'm not your servant. The ground trembled violently. Streams of water coiled around his ankles, pulling him toward the towering liquid figure that had reformed nearby. Its faceless head tilted, acknowledging his rebellion. Leora grabbed his hand, pulling against the tide. "Fight it, Eric." The boy laughed wildly. "Don't fight it. Embrace it. Together we'll lead them. Humanity will bow to us." Eric's chest heaved. For the first time, he saw the boy not as a fellow survivor but as something already lost, already hollowed out. The architects weren't choosing leaders, they were creating conduits. And the boy had already surrendered. The water being's voice boomed inside Eric's skull. "The harvest begins." Eric's knees buckled. In the storm's vision, he saw Earth drowned not by destruction but by conversion. Survivors, glowing like him, rounded up, shaped into an army of fluid-born hybrids. Humanity wouldn't die screaming, it would vanish singing. His eyes shot open, burning with fury. "No!" With a surge of will, he thrust both arms outward. The water constricting his legs exploded away, flung into the storm. The water being staggered, rippling violently as though destabilized. For the first time, the architect's chorus faltered. The boy recoiled in shock. "What are you doing?" Eric's voice was steel. "If I'm their vessel, then I'll use it against them." The soldiers watched, stunned, as the storm bent under Eric's will. Raindrops halting midair, suspended in a shimmering dome around them. For one breathless moment, humanity's weakness turned into a shield. But the architect's fury slammed back into him like a tidal wave. His chest burned, his veins flaring so bright the light bled through his skin. He screamed, barely holding control. And in that moment, he realized the terrible truth. If he pushed too far, the water would burn him out completely. Still, he clenched his teeth and shouted through the pain. "Run! Get out of here! I can't hold them forever!" Leora's eyes locked with his: fear, defiance, and something else: trust. She barked to the squad, "Move! Now!" They scrambled, but as they did, the boy's voice rang out like a curse. "You can't stop them, Eric. You can't fight the tide. You are the tide." Eric's shield shuddered. The storm pressed harder. His body flickered between flesh and liquid, on the brink of tearing apart. And then, just as the squad reached the ridge, a colossal shape rose from the horizon. Another water being, even larger, striding across the battlefield like a god. The architects weren't sending whispers anymore. They were coming in person. The moment you wield their weapon, you risk becoming their weapon. The ground quaked as the colossal figure marched from the horizon, its body a mountain of liquid muscle. Each step rippled the valley like a tidal wave. The first water being had been terrifying enough. This one dwarfed buildings, its torso stretching into the storm as though the sky itself was its head. The soldiers at the ridge froze. Even Leora, hardened by years of war, looked stricken. "How do we fight that?" Thane muttered. "We don't. We run." But Eric stood his ground, the storm's halo still shimmering around him. His skin pulsed like a lantern, veins glowing in tandem with the rainfall. He was no longer fully human. Every second he held the water at bay, he drifted further from himself. The boy stepped forward, arms outstretched as if greeting a god. His voice cracked with reverence. "They've come for us. For me. Don't you see? This is what we were chosen for." Eric's jaw clenched. "Chosen? You're nothing but a vessel." The boy turned, his smile eerie, his eyes no longer human. They swirled like whirlpools. "Exactly. And when I let them in, I'll be more than you can ever imagine." He threw his head back, screaming into the storm. The water answered instantly. Streams shot upward, coiling around his limbs, his torso, his neck. His body convulsed as the liquid poured into his skin, fusing with bone and blood. When the glow subsided, he was unrecognizable. His flesh shimmered translucent, his movements liquid, his voice layered with an alien echo. "I am not the boy anymore," he declared, his words reverberating across the valley. "I am their soldier." Leora whispered, horrified. "He let them take him." Eric felt a chill slice through his chest. He could see the truth in the boy's new form. It wasn't evolution. It was occupation. The towering figure reached the battlefield at last, its faceless head tilting toward its two conduits, the surrendered boy and Eric, who still resisted. The rain thickened, each droplet vibrating with command. Join. Submit. Fight as one. Eric's knees buckled. He could feel his blood responding, surging with the same rhythm as the colossal being. His shield flickered, droplets collapsing back to the ground. No, he gasped, forcing his body upright. I'm not yours. The architects pressed harder. The boy advanced, eyes blazing, liquid armor forming jagged blades along his arms. You can't fight it, Eric. Look at yourself, you're already half theirs. Stop resisting, and you'll be unstoppable. Eric met his gaze. No, I'd be unrecognizable. The boy lunged. Their clash was unlike anything the squad had ever seen. Blades of water met walls of suspended rain, each strike rippling the valley with shockwaves. Mud erupted, puddles spun into weapons, droplets crystallized midair like glass shards. The soldiers scrambled, ducking for cover as titans fought before their eyes. Leora shouted, "Eric, don't lose yourself." But Eric barely heard her. His mind was a storm, the architect's voices hammering at his will. Every time he pushed the boy back, his blood flared brighter, the whispers louder. Yes, more. Release us fully. The boy slashed again, his blade grazing Eric's arm. Instead of bleeding, water spilled from the wound, glowing faintly before reabsorbing into his skin. Eric froze, horrified. The boy smirked. See? You're already like me. No! Eric roared, thrusting out his hands. The storm bent violently, slamming the boy backward into the colossal being's leg. For the first time, the mountain of liquid shifted, acknowledging the battle. It lowered a massive hand, scooping the boy into its palm like a child. The boy didn't resist. Instead, he spread his arms wide, laughing as his body dissolved into the giant's hand, merging with it. The colossal figure's chest glowed brighter, its movements quickening, more defined. Eric's stomach dropped. The boy hadn't been killed, he had been assimilated. The squad watched in horror as the giant turned its faceless head toward Eric. The echo boomed inside his mind. One vessel is not enough. The tide requires all. Streams of water shot from its chest, coiling toward Eric. He raised his hands desperately, halting them midair. For a moment he held, but the pressure built instantly, his veins flaring, his knees sinking into the mud. Leora ran toward him. Eric, you can't take it alone. He gritted his teeth. Then help me. For the first time, the squad raised their rifles not to shoot the water, but to aid him. They fired at drones circling the edges, keeping pressure off Eric as he locked wills with the colossal being. The storm roared, water against water, soldier against architect. Eric screamed, forcing the streams back, his body flickering dangerously between solid and liquid. And then, for one fleeting instant, he succeeded. The giant staggered. The water beam collapsed. The squad cheered, but their hope died instantly when they saw Eric collapse too, glowing veins surging uncontrollably. His body convulsed, every droplet in the valley rising with him. His eyes shot open, blazing blue. The whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were commands in his own voice. Leora froze, horror dawning. Eric, they're inside you. He turned toward her, his face twisted with pain. I don't know if I'm holding them back anymore, or if they're holding me. The storm swelled, the colossal figure looming larger, and in the rising tide, one truth echoed mercilessly. The weapon wasn't outside him anymore. The weapon was him. Power is never given freely. It's a leash disguised as a gift. Eric staggered in the mud, his body glowing like a storm lantern. The architect's whispers now a chorus in his veins. His squad stared at him not as a soldier, but as something in between, man and storm, savior and monster. Above them, the colossal being towered, its faceless form rippling with stolen strength. The boy's voice, warped and layered, boomed from within its chest. Join us, Eric. Together we can end humanity's weakness. Together we can remake them in water's image. Eric's head throbbed. Part of him wanted it, wanted release from the agony of resistance. Every second fighting the tide was like holding back an ocean with bare hands. But another voice, faint yet stubborn, still burned inside him. Remember who you are. Leora's voice cut through the storm. Eric, listen to me. You're not a weapon. You're a man. That's why you can resist them. The giant moved. Its hand descended like a tidal wave, intent on crushing them all. Eric raised his arms instinctively, the storm bending to his will. Water clashed against water, thunder shaking the valley. But with each clash, Eric felt the architects seeping deeper. His heartbeat wasn't his alone. It was theirs. His thoughts weren't his own, they braided with alien commands. If he kept this up, he wouldn't just lose the fight. He'd lose himself. The colossal voice boomed inside him. You are already ours. Your blood is tied, your heart is current. Stop resisting, and we will make you eternal. He faltered, falling to one knee. Water swirled violently, his shield fracturing. Leora dashed forward, ignoring the storm's claws that tore at her armor. She grabbed his face, forcing his eyes to meet hers. Eric, you want to live forever as their puppet? Or die as yourself? The words cut through the noise. Eric gasped, realization dawning. This was never about survival. It was about choice. Slowly, painfully, he rose to his feet. The storm howled. The architect screamed. But for the first time, he felt calm. His glow steadied. His voice was clear. I drank your weapon, he said, staring at the giant. But it doesn't make me yours. It makes me something you'll never be, free. The architects roared, their voices merging into a hurricane. Streams of liquid lightning tore toward him. But instead of shielding, Eric did something else. He let go. The storm inside him exploded outward. His body became a conduit, channeling every drop he had taken, every thread of their power, and then rejecting it. A pillar of liquid fire erupted skyward, striking the colossal being in the chest. For the first time, the giant staggered. Its form flickered, unstable. The boy's voice shrieked from within, No! Don't waste it! Use it! But Eric didn't stop. He poured everything out, not just the architect's energy, but himself. His veins, his blood, his very life flowed into the torrent. The squad watched in horror and awe as Eric's body thinned, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. He wasn't fighting the storm anymore. He was the storm. The colossal figure screamed, its chest caving, liquid body unraveling. The voices shrieked and then dissolved into silence. In moments, the giant collapsed into a waterfall, flooding the valley before evaporating into mist. And with it, Eric began to fade. Leora sprinted forward, catching him as his knees buckled. His skin was pale, glowing faintly. Drops of water slid from his arms like sweat, vanishing before they touched the earth. No, she whispered, clutching him. Don't you dare leave us now. Eric smiled weakly. We turned their weapon, not into destruction, into choice. You'll survive, she insisted, shaking him. You have to. His gaze softened, distant. I can't. I gave it all back. But maybe that's the point. They built hydro weapons to erase us. And in the end, we drank them dry. His body shimmered, dissolving into mist. Leora's grip tightened, but her hands closed on nothing. The valley grew silent. The storm thinned, clouds breaking to reveal a pale sunrise. For the first time in years, the sky looked clear. The soldiers stood in stunned silence. Some wept, some saluted, and Leora knelt in the mud, staring at the space where Eric had been. The boy was gone. The architects were gone. But so was Eric, the man who had chosen humanity over eternity. The wind carried a whisper across the valley, faint and fleeting, like the echo of a voice. Freedom is worth the tide. Leora rose, wiping her face. Then we'll make sure he didn't die for nothing. The soldiers nodded. The war wasn't over, but the tide had shifted. Humanity had seen the truth. The architect's weapons weren't death, they were temptation. And though one man had paid the ultimate price, his choice had shown them another path. The world would rebuild. The storms would return. But now, every drop of rain would remind them they weren't slaves. They were survivors.